Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am back on the couch again with one of these discussion style videos. And in this video, I want to talk about how do I know if I'm actually ready to take this exam? All right. So let's talk about it. All right, guys. So there's something that I think that we don't think about when we are wanting to go and take the exam again. Okay, so of course this video is someone that probably may have failed the exam for the first time, or maybe this is going to be number 4. And the best advice I could tell you is you need to create yourself what I call a readiness marker. All right, so a readiness marker is kind of laying out everything that you felt like was a challenge for you the first time around, or the third or fourth, whatever time, how many times you took it, you want to kind of lay that out. Okay. And how you know you're actually ready to take the exam again is if you can check off these markers. All right. So, of course, there's certain things that you should be doing, right, before you feel like maybe it's time for me to go retake. So, of course, that is making sure that you had identified what on the exam came up that was a challenge. So that could be something that you're noticing a pattern, especially if you've taken it multiple times. You're kind of in an advantage in that sense, where you have an idea of, okay, you know what, I realize that pediatric questions are really tripping me up on this exam and I'm really struggling. I need to spend a little bit more time on that. Or maybe mental health questions is really tripping me up. Maybe I need to spend a little more time on that. Okay. So of course, the first steps is to kind of get yourself acclimated with your study plan and your study strategy. And if you're someone that needs help with that, definitely go to my website, TimishaTutoring.com, where I offer different programs and offerings to assist people with that. But this video is not about that. This video is about how do you know if you're actually ready to take the exam again. So like I said, you're creating a readiness marker. So what should be in that readiness marker? So the first thing that should be in your readiness marker is that you want to make sure that you're taking practice exam questions and you're getting like a consistent score. So for example, if you're taking a practice exam and one score says a 421, then you take another one and the next score says a 455, right? You want to be able to have some level of close consistency. It doesn't mean that it has to be, all the same score, but you want to try to get a score that's above 450 and is kind of consistent in that range. Now, don't beat yourself up if you take one and it says like a 445, because oftentimes people might take practice exams and they're getting like a 443 or 445, and then they go off and they pass the real thing. But you just want to make sure that you're in that 450 range. If you're taking those practice exams, you're coming at 419, you're coming in at 430 all the time, then you probably need to work on that more. So that's the first thing. And then you want to think about, how are you thinking about the questions? Okay, this is rational thinking. Do you actually understand the questions and how to answer them and how to break them down? Because if you don't, if you still find yourself second guessing, if you still find yourself doubting, if you still find yourself kind of going off as you're looking at them and you're trying to pull yourself back because you're really struggling with the comprehension, then you got to iron that out, right? You got to get comfortable when you see these exam questions that it doesn't scare you to the point that you can't focus. Okay. And then the next thing is you want to check your anxiety levels. Did your anxiety reduce or did your anxiety go up? Right? So if you feel like I feel like I'm getting more of a control of my anxiety, a good indicator of that is confidence. When you start feeling like I'm getting more and more confidence with my strategy of studying and my strategy of answering these questions, it's going to build your confidence. And by building your confidence, it's going to decrease the amount of anxiety you're actually feeling. So that's something you want to check off to see how you're doing anxiety-wise. And I do have an anxiety journal. It's 120 days of just checking your anxiety. If you're interested in that, definitely go to my website. You can find that book that you can purchase, okay? And then improved time management, right? How are you doing with your time management? Sometimes people fail the exam because they're just running out of time, or sometimes people are failing just because they're so fixated on the time that it creates the anxiety for them. It creates that heavy nervousness. So you want to practice your time management, taking certain strategies when it comes to time management. Of course, in my program, we talk about that. That's something that is often brought up, is time management. So you want to be able to check off that, are you doing better with your time management when you're taking those exams? All right. So you want to keep track of that. And then the last thing is, how was your faith, right? Oftentimes we put so much energy and emphasis on this exam, but you have to ask yourself, are you even believing that this is something that you can do? Okay. Sometimes I feel like people say they want to pass, but they're actually fearful of when they do pass, because now they're going into a career that, let's say, the last time they were in school was 2022 or 2023, even 2024, and they feel like, man, I'm really a newbie because I felt like I have forgotten so much from school that now going into this profession, I'm a little nervous, I'm a little scared. So sometimes that actually plays a part on your faith and your belief. And I hate to say it, I feel like sometimes people get comfortable with the expectation of failing more than they're comfortable with the expectation of passing. So you have to ask yourself, is that you? Are you, even though you say you hate to fail and you don't want to fail again, are you actually comfortable with the expectation that you're going to fail versus the expectation of what if you pass, right? So that is my tips for today. I hope that it helps you. And once you're able to check off those readiness markers, then you'll have your answer right there. Okay. So if you're liking my videos, definitely go ahead and share. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to it. And definitely come and check me out on my social media platforms. I am new on TikTok as well as Instagram, but I am there and you can find me at Timisha Tutoring. All right, guys, I will see you in another video, and make sure that you go down to the description below and sign up for my free webinar that is coming up in January after the holidays. All right, so I'll talk to you guys then. Bye-bye.